Hey everyone, George here, the Disney Family Man, coming to you with another exciting video, folks. How's it going? What's up? During the time of this recording, it's Sunday, so happy Sunday to you all. And today I thought I'd talk about something that kind of worked its way into my life growing up as a 90s kid, and that was the Disney animated Renaissance era. So you're probably all wondering, well, maybe some of you, maybe most of you, maybe all of you, who knows? What is the Disney Renaissance era? Well, it's during the time when Disney animation had hit its stride with hit after hit after hit after going through some turmoil at the animation studio in Burbank, where at the time, after Walt had passed in the 60s, shortly after the Jungle Book was released, which was a phenomenal hit. It was the last film that had Walt's handprint all over it. He worked on it, but he never got to see it finalized, complete. So that was a phenomenal hit. After the Jungle Book, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of great, hits afterwards, but they just hit that mark because the company didn't know which way they were going without their significant leader to guide them along the way through the process of each, film, such as The Rescuers and The Black Cauldron and the Aristocats, movies of that nature where they didn't really know, how to tackle it. And then it wasn't until the 80s when The Fox and the Hound was released, and it started to show, that, Disney was really trying, but they could not hit that mark. And then later on in the late 80s, was the film was released in 1989, The Little Mermaid, which was a huge success. And The Little Mermaid paved the way that began that new era of Disney animation, which then led into Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, so on and so forth. So during that time, it was The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King. Those were, I would say, the top four films that really hit it hard at the box office, that really brought Disney animation back from the ashes, so to speak, that really kind of signified of who they were as a company, of how it originated back in Walt's era. And, I couldn't be more, relieved that, I was part of that era because I grew up as a 90s kid. And the very first movie I actually saw in theaters was Aladdin. And then I saw The Lion King, which was my very first drive-in film. So, it progressed into that notion of in my life that, this was a significant part of my childhood growing up. But I would have to say, and people will probably argue with me on it, but to me, Beauty and the Beast, the 1991 animated version, to me is the best animated film of all time. Possibly almost up there with the top 10 films of all time, regardless. The rich animation, the unremarkable, timeless, with the songs of, with Alan Menken and the great Howard Ashman. It's just phenomenal of what they did with that film, because it was the very first time, and not even just with Disney, I think ever, that a film was based off of as if you were watching a Broadway musical. It was played to the tone of a Broadway musical, and no other film that I believe, other than, of course, a film that was supposed to be made as a Broadway musical type, such as with The Sound of Music, Grease, Mary Poppins. They all had that significant moment, but never that I could really think of that an animated film had really pushed those boundaries. And Beauty and the Beast did, and I don't think it would have been the success it was without it being that way. But kind of going back, that it started with The Little Mermaid, and I even think with the collaboration with Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, that the music that tied into these films was just phenomenal. with Part of Your World, Under the Sea, and then moving into Beauty and the Beast with uh, the title song Beauty and the Beast, Be Our Guest, and then even the wonderful song that never really made it into the original, but it started on the Broadway show of Beauty and the Beast and then eventually moved into the film was Human Again. So that was a great song as well. And then moving into Aladdin with, again, that lush, beautiful animation mixed with the storyline, the characters, the music. And, and I can honestly tell you, Beauty and the Beast is my all-time favorite Disney animated film, but A Whole New World is my all-time favorite Disney song. It just speaks to me. I love the melody. I love the way it's performed on multiple ways of how Brad Kane and Leia Salonia sings it in the movie itself, and then Peebo Bryson and uh, I forget her name, Regina Bell sings it at the end, and then you have the newer updated version from the live action Aladdin and what have you. But just however, I could listen to that song even just in instrumental as an orchestra playing, and I would still love that song. And then coming to The Lion King, well, that just pretty much The Lion King hit so many milestones because during that time it was the highest grossing animated film ever. It was worldwide popular beyond belief, and it wasn't based off of a fairy tale. I mean, some will argue that, of course it's based off of some intricate parts of Hamlet, but as far as like based off of like a Grimm's Brother fairy tale of how like Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, like this was a film that was very contemporary to the notion of that it wasn't based off of anything. It was just, you take these key elements, you take these characters, and you have to build a story from scratch. And, the Disney animators and the Disney teams, they really knocked it out of the ballpark with that one. And it's just one of those things, it's like lightning in a bottle that it stands the test of time. And then it got a Broadway show, which won 7 Tony Awards, including Best New Musical, and it was one of the highest running Broadway shows, even to the time like right before everything closed down because of COVID. But it still stands the test of time. And then right after The Lion King, I think Disney had hit their stride, where then released Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Tarzan, and that group of films that was released into the mid to the late 90s were still very good films. I love them. Yeah, I hold them close to me because, again, I grew up in the 90s, but I don't think that it actually, more so it didn't connect with like of how everything was running during that time with as far as like the audience goes, because it was like hit after hit after hit after hit, and then it was like it kind of peaked right when Pocahontas was released. And I think, and this is just my theory, you could all let me know, please comment down below, that during the time when Pocahontas was being released was when another animated film, the new animation on the block, so to speak, came with Toy Story. Now, Toy Story was also a Disney film, but it was being under the guidance of being created by Pixar. And I think with that it was so new during that time that no one knew what they were actually looking at, but you couldn't take your eyes off of it. Today, every single animated film is computer animated, but it was the very first computer animated film ever. It was the Snow White of its day in 1995. And it's just that I think when Toy Story was released, it overshadowed Pocahontas. It was just one of those things where I think Pocahontas, even though it was a great story, it has, catchy songs and everything, but it didn't resonate to audiences as much as it caught the attention with Toy Story. And I think also that's what kind of happened along the line with Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan, they all, again, are great films, especially the animated Mulan. I absolutely love Mulan. But that it didn't hit the mark because I think that people were now moving on of saying we like this new type of animation. Toy Story was released, and then A Bug's Life, and then Toy Story 2, and those were the first three Pixar films that came out during the running time between Pocahontas through Tarzan, because A Bug's Life was released in 1998, the same year as Mulan. Toy Story 2 was released in the year of 1999, the same year as Tarzan. So even though Mulan and Tarzan did very well, they still came secondary to A Bug's Life and Toy Story 2. And then as far as The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Hercules, which arguably also too, Hercules for me, I think has one of the strongest soundtracks that I think is very overshadowed, that people don't really pay attention to, and I really think they should, because you have this Greek mythological story mixed with like this type of church choir gospel type of music, and it blends harmoniously, and it's genius the way that they did it, and it fits well with the story and the characters and what have you. But again, I think right after Toy Story, people were they could not get enough of computer animation. So after they got Toy Story, well, when Hunchback and Hercules came out, it's like, well, okay, we're going backwards here. We want more of this, not this. But again, it was still strong enough, for me, that it still fits in well with the Renaissance era of, the Disney in the 90s. And then soon after, once it started hitting into the early 2000s, when everyone was being prepared for Monsters, Inc. and Finding Nemo and The Incredibles, well, then it was released with Disney with Atlantis and Treasure Planet and The Emperor's New Groove, and those films, completely flopped. Again, even though the storyline and the characters were strong, it just didn't hit that mark with the audience. So the very beginning of the Renaissance era for Disney, with The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King, blew it out of the park. Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan kind of fell a little bit below expectations of what they were expecting was going to happen, but for me, it's still a home run all the way through the 90s for me, as far as Disney animation goes. So let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. Were you born and raised as a child growing up during the Disney Renaissance era? Do you know about the Renaissance era? What's your favorite film, song, character, whatever? I'd love to hear from you guys. Please comment down below. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, stay Disney. Bye, everybody.